going on, everyone? If you like this video and want to support the creation of more content on this YouTube channel, don't forget to hit like and to subscribe. It's just a small thing, but it goes a long way to helping this grow. I hope you enjoy the video.
Well, in the 155 pages of Judge, is it
Barrister, Vanessa Barrister.
But I think it's Barrister.
How's that pronounced? Either way.
Whatever. I do not think that I don't think that her judgment goes into the freedom of speech arguments.
But how can it not?
That's an interesting question. Let me see if I can find it. In paragraph 122, she says, the defence submits that Mr. Assange's disclosures are protected by Article 10, that's of the European Convention on Human Rights, submits that it would be protected by free speech in the light of the risk of harm from non-disclosure to millions of people. It sought to demonstrate the significance of the WikiLeaks revelations and what it has called the scale of the crimes against humanity through the oral evidence of Clive Stafford Smith, Professor Feldstein, Daniel Ellsberg, and others.
So, in layman's terms?
In England, free speech is protected. And I frankly do not know why the free speech argument didn't carry the day in the court below.
That's why I'm so pessimistic about this whole thing, because it seems so obvious that he's innocent.
What can I say? I don't know. I was really surprised that he got up on the ground on which he succeeded.
What also disturbs me is how apathetic the majority of people seem to be with the Assange case. I mean, there doesn't seem to be much uproar or outrage, and I'm sure the media has a lot to answer for as far as that goes. But do you worry that freedom of speech is perhaps becoming an old-fashioned ideal for my generation?
I suspect that the issue becomes too complex in his case, and that may explain why. But I agree with you. The response of your generation has been one of indifference. The response of all generations in Australia has been one of indifference. And that's a real pity. I mean, the argument for Assange was much stronger a few years ago than it is now. And maybe it's because that's the nature of the news cycle. People get accustomed to what is being said and they move on. You know, the issues just shift. I mean, look at Scott Morrison, what he's doing. Scott Morrison, who in my view is an idiot and a hypocrite and a liar, Scott Morrison just keeps on coming up with stuff on the footing that whatever he says will be overtaken by what happens the next day.
In relation to Assange or just in general?
Just in general. And that's the nature of the news media these days.
Well, why hasn't the Australian government done more to protect Assange? I mean, other countries are offering him asylum and he's not even their citizen. The United Nations has condemned it. Amnesty International has called it a travesty of injustice. So, I mean, is it partly because Australia sees an alliance with America as more important than one man going down? Especially in the context of rising tensions with the CCP.
I don't know about the broader political question, but Australia's attitude is bizarre. I mean, you know, Julia Gillard, when she was PM, at the time Assange went into the Ecuadorian embassy in London, she basically came out and said that he was a criminal. But bizarre. I had met Assange about 35 years ago. I acted for him apparently when he was a young computer hacker.
Punk in the 90s.
I don't remember meeting him, but he told me about it. I spent some time with him in the Ecuadorian embassy in London in the middle of 2011, just after he'd gone in, and he reminded me then of my having acted for him years earlier.
Why were you meeting with him in the Ecuadorian embassy?
Because I was concerned about what was happening, and he welcomed me. Anyway,
could you tell me about that? What was it? What's he like as a person? And I personally find the guy fascinating. So, I mean, what was it like meeting him? And
he was very interesting, and we spent about an hour and a half together, with him helping me draft a letter which I sent to Nicola Roxon, who I knew personally, and who was then, I think, Attorney General in the Gillard government. Anyway, Assange and I drafted this letter. I mean, I had to calm him down and keep the thing to a minimum because his approach was always, say more rather than less. Drafted that letter. I sent it to Nicola Roxon when I got back to Australia, and she basically ignored it, did nothing. In 2017, I saw him again in the embassy. At that point, Malcolm Turnbull was PM, and I sent a letter to him explaining why Australia needed to do more to help Assange. And it would have been very simple. It was just a matter of getting an Australian driver to take him from the embassy to the airport and put him on a plane.
So they would have been able to safely get him back to Australia if they just acted on it.
They could have got him back to Australia, and if there was an extradition, I mean, extradition was just simply not an issue back then. But he could have been brought back to Australia, and I think it would just have been a matter of simple arrangement, a simple agreement between the Australian and the English governments that he would not be intercepted on the way to the airport, on the footing that he would, if he's in the embassy and he's safe, he could be sent back to Australia where he would be safe and he'd be out of Britain's hands.
And yet they didn't do anything.
Didn't do anything. Neither the Liberal government nor the Labor government did anything to help him.
What else sort of impressed you about Assange? He seems like an intensely moral and incredibly sharp person. Would you agree with that?
He's very clever. Yeah, he's very bright.
He seems very, whenever I've seen particularly US journalists interviewing him and trying to sort of catch him out, he's always just very sort of calm, measured, and sort of gives amazing answers, I think.